Sean, so good to have you on the show, man. I feel like we've been in the same room, but at least in my experience, we didn't get a chance to interact too much. We were even at the same dinner table, but one of our past guests, Tony Christine, was next to me, and then David Mendoza was next to me, and so I wasn't able to talk to anybody else as much. Now is the time you get a whole devoted hour all about Sean, man. So how's your year? How's your 2021 going? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a great start to this year. Creative was a great conference, and even Tony, I'm working really close with Tony on some stuff.
Okay.
It was a fantastic group of people, and 2020's kind of started with shaking off 2020 in some ways, and also like, cool, who do we want to be today? What are we wanting to cause right now? What will that look like a year from now? What will that look like 3 years from now, and 5 years, and 10 years, and things like that? So we got a lot of really, really cool stuff going on, doubling down on just being the album expert, with Clubhouse having launched and stuff like that. I come in rooms and they're like, the album king is here. And that was not my coined phrase, but I'm grateful for it. We finished up our book last year and launched that. And so just coming out with like, hey, we are here to serve you. We want to see photographers succeed.
Yeah.
We're making sure that they know that first and foremost. And then we're like, how can we lean in with you? So what does that look like for you? And I'm the face and I'm heading that up because I love that. And I am the visionary of the company. I will be working on in the next couple of years, like stepping down as a CEO, becoming more and more the visionary only. And it's like a visionary isn't just an idea person. A visionary also like shakes out some ideas. It's like I give it to my integrator. And a lot of times my integrator gives that idea back and then I get to like flush it out. What will that look like down the road? And does it make sense for us to plug it in now, later? Never. I don't have to make the final decision. My integrator gets to do that, but it's just been this really good dynamic with my team. There's 3 people on my executive team and they're like my ride or die people, but we're just refining our roles more and more. And 2021 has been started really well with that. I got to spend a little bit of time with them and just redefine our roles, or just not redefine, but just define them more and get focused. So it's been amazing.
That's awesome. That's really fun. Yeah, I think for people who don't know, like did you found Kiss Books, right? Like you own an album company. How long has that journey been?
Yeah, we're coming up on 14 years. I co-founded it, but I am the current owner of it, CEO. And yeah, it's 14 years, which is absolutely wild. I was a photographer as well.
Yeah.
I did that for 15 years, and then it overlapped my career with Kiss. It just got to the point where I miss photography today, but I get to serve photographers, and I love that even more than when I was a photographer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was, I co-founded it, and it's just been this crazy roller coaster of a ride, and I'd really kind of have it no other way. I've learned a lot along the way. I'm learning to love the journey right now. I like takeoff and landings, and I'm learning to love the journey because there's so much in the journey. And that's really who we are is in that journey, who we are in the journey. So I'm just learning so much.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, I want to talk about albums in a second, but you've gone through some pretty big life change. It looks like based on social media and stuff like that, even over the past year since we met. Tell me a little bit about that. Some of my guesses are, you've lost a little bit of weight, you've therapy, coaching, all those things integrated. If you feel comfortable, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm an open book. So ask anything you want. If you've heard anything, it's like there for the taking. I hope that at the end of every year, or like in a year, 12 months, however you want to measure that, I hope that I'm not like unrecognizable, but 3 and 5 years, it's like, that's a different person than I met. I just feel like we can become this person better than I was yesterday, and longing for a better version of me tomorrow. And so, yeah, like I found in 2020 in what it was, I did find like a vitality coach, which is different than health. I fluctuated my whole life. Like since I was like super fast on the baseball field and was known for this like athleticism until I was about 15, and kind of like the life that I was living and the partying that I had starting at a really young age started to catch up, and, big boned, and you're going to grow into this. My mom would say, and I was like, I guess I was supposed to be like 7 foot tall or something, but I'm 5'10", and so I get to deal with just the abuse that I've done on myself with a lot of different coping mechanisms, and I still do struggle up until now with like sugar and carbohydrates. If you find me in the pantry, I'm probably looking for something other than just sugar, and I don't want people to like talk me out of the pantry. I want them to like come in the pantry and be like, hey, how you doing? Why do you find yourself here?
Yeah.
So I found a lot of transformation. My wife's a transformational coach. And while I get to turn that switch off. If I ever find her coaching me, I can just turn it off. She doesn't coach me hardly ever.
Yeah.
But I am like open for feedback. And so I just been trying to do things a little more open. I feel like I have the answers for everything. It's just not the case.
Yeah.
It is like, I need to learn as well. And I get to like implement what I learn,
Yeah.
So 2020 was fantastic until it wasn't. I got really tired towards the end of the year. And I just had to understand like, hey, this is a long storm and I need to pace a little bit slower. I came out hot, like we're going to be okay. And we're all in this together. And let's serve your past clients with albums. And like, we changed lives and I'm grateful for it. And I still get comments regularly coming in like, hey, thanks for showing up the way that you did.
Yeah.
But I also have to show up for myself. So morning routines, evening routines, I just have to watch out for myself because nobody else will watch out for you. Nobody else will watch out for me, or we can't bank on it. The one thing we get to control is how we choose to show up. And so I'm going to be diligent about how I show up. Consistency. Yeah. I've lost a little bit of weight. Now it's like time to see how I can like go next level with that. And it's not about the weight. It's about who I want to be at that weight. I'm on the scale right now because I'm coming up on a big anniversary with my wife. And so we have some goals that we're trying to set so we can like really just unplug and celebrate.
Yeah.
But it's really like why more than anything. Why am I doing this? Whether it's good or what some people would call bad. I'm to the point where I don't believe in bad, broken, or wrong. I just believe in like suboptimal. We're not living who we want to be, but we're choosing to be an a-hole in that moment. And it's like, okay, I've started to write it to be lists, but I almost like today in a clubhouse, somebody said, what about like who you don't want to be today? Like, I don't want to be an a-hole. I'm like, that's not a bad idea. I have my to-do list, my to-be list, and who I don't want to be today. So if I ever find myself in that category, I get to look at my to-be list.
Yeah, dude, that's super smart. That's awesome. Well, congrats. I didn't even plan on talking about this, but I feel like, what does your life look like as far as kind of some of the disciplines that you've built in? And not that you're perfect at it, I know you would admit that, but like you're doing a good job. You're making progress, and I think that should be celebrated. How is that different from when you were a photographer? And like, what do you see? I know even in myself, I talk to photographers all the time, and I'm like, listen, at least for me, as a guy who's trying to lose weight, trying to implement some of those life changes. And if you're a obese person like me, it's something we think about every day. I think people pretend like we don't know, but I'm always like, I hope that I can do this until I'm 45, and that's my exit plan. It's like 15 more years. Like that's the plan. So what was your journey like when you were a photographer? Were you this disciplined? What did that look like? And then what made that change for you? What was that switch that flipped for you?
Yeah, what a great question. Discipline was not my jam, but there's something that looks a lot like discipline. It's called hustle. It's not the same thing at all. So I hustled my way through my photography career until I started to figure out like get healthy, look at some of my kind of like past. Yeah. And the way I've explained it just recently is like I found a therapist that helped me with my marriage, and things were not going well in 2010. Yeah. And we didn't celebrate our 9-year anniversary. And I had hustled up to that point, and I wasn't resting. I was actually like crashing at the end of the day. I was just done. And so I hustled my way through it, and it is different than discipline. I believe in a season of hustle, but I don't think we have to hustle forever. I believe in hustle with a purpose. So I'm not anti-hustle, but I'm also not pro-hustle for the rest of your life. Like like there are race cars, and races are short. Like one of the longest races there is the 24-hour Le Mans, and those cars are beat at the end. They have to take that thing and likely throw it away, but like definitely rebuild it. I ran a lot of my photography business career like a race car, and it was 15 years long, and you just can't do it for that long. Yeah. And so I brushed up against burnout pretty regularly. I coped with, my drug of choice at the time, whatever it was. But I've learned a lot, and I was able to go back through my life and say like, I should have done this, or I could have done this. I wish I would have done this. I wish this would have happened to me earlier or whatnot. And I got to do that once. So I try and avoid going back and saying, I wish I would have just done it this way. I just learned a lot through it. I just figured out that hustle and consistency and diligence are just different things. And that's totally okay. Yeah, no, totally. When was there a switch that flipped? Was it that therapy moment or that marriage moment, or was it later, sooner? What did that look like? Yeah. I caused a lot of pain. And when the lights came on and I realized that I was actually causing other people pain instead of just taking it to my grave, like I was the only one being affected, that was the moment. And it was February 5th, 2010. I came home. Actually, I was on a photo shoot. I was on an engagement shoot on a Friday night, and I was shooting 60 some odd weddings that year and 100 engagements. And so I was busy. I was doing the hustle. I was making money and definitely acting like I made more money at the time and stuff like that. But I got a text from my wife, and she had just found some of my stuff that was like, she's not okay with it. And she kind of knew it was there, but you know, the way that we interact and in her unhealth as well as in her health is like, tends to look like codependency and addict. It was very alive and well then. And so I got home and we had had my youngest, who at the time was like 6 months, and she just handed him to me, took her rings off, and said, "Don't come after me." And she walked out the door. Wow. She had every right in the world to do it. She didn't even have to come back. She came back. And I think this is a gift from God. I am a believer. I don't like force that on other people, but I believe this was a gift that she was breastfeeding her youngest, and that's why she came home. And she had been going to other people's houses, or like a friend of ours' houses that had been through some similar stuff. Yeah. And there was just some lights that came on in her life that she understood a little bit about her part, and then was like, "Hey, if you're willing to go to therapy," is what she said. "If you're willing to go to therapy, then we can see if there's something here." But it was like we were right up against divorce and every right in the world to go through that for both of us ultimately. And it was in the next season, and it's continued since then. You know, it's been a long time, but I'm grateful for each day. I'm grateful that we're still together. We'll be celebrating 20 years, March 9th. And it's been a road, but I would, like I said, I'd have it no other way. I don't wish it any different. I was taking stuff to my grave that was dark, and it's not for one person to carry on their own. And it doesn't make me who I am. You know, I went to therapy to unbecome, because I thought that's who I was. I now have a coach that helps me become. You know, she shows me, "Hey, this is the vision that you signed up for. Are you becoming this?" If I need a therapist, it's because I'm dealing with my past of like, you know, things happened to me as a kid. And then I chose to act out in a lot of different ways and caused a lot of pain and dealt with a lot of pain as well. And so I get to unbecome, because that shame and fear and pride is not who I am. This is who I want to be. Today, I want to be humble. I want to be a leader. I want to be compassionate. I want to be connected. I want to serve really well. That's who I want to be. I'm not, you know, the drugs that I chose to do, the fact that the things that happened to me as a kid. It's not just who I am. So I learned to unbecome with my therapist, and now I learned to become with my coach.
That's really, really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. That's, sorry to get deep on a podcast about, photography and albums, but I feel like that's the, as you've seen that's the real stuff. I feel like that's the stuff that, would be like, who are you? Why do you do what you do? And actually like going deeper, like there's a person behind every business, and like that stuff matters and affects how we do things now and where we're at and where we're becoming. So like, I really appreciate that. And I'd seen some of that. And so I wanted to kind of just touch base on that. Unrelated, but kind of related, at least now it seems like that you have turned into a healthy hustler, if you will. Still running Kiss Books, killing it. Wrote a book last year, right? Yep. That's insane. And so, tell me a little bit about the book. It's called The Stack. You're the only albums professional I've talked to on this show that has written a book about that. And it's also, I would say, like, pretty inexpensive and approachable. Like, I looked it up this morning. And so tell me a little bit more about The Stack.
Yeah, it was a long time coming, and my team helped rally around me. Yeah. A lot of the unhealth that I just talked about it came with a lot of like, I'm not enough and I'm not capable was one of my biggest things. And I was afraid of like showing up and doing things. And so this book is just like a gift from me and really my team to say like, hey, we're here. This is how I did it for a long time. Yeah. And then this is how people are currently doing it as well. So there's kind of like 3 concepts in there, but the stack is just the stack of sample albums. And we have like this ultimate stack, what we think is the ideal way to sell to weddings. And we're also working on like that in the portrait world as well. So what does a stack look like for a, fill in the blank portrait photographer? Yeah. So it's just our gift to the industry. And we're trying to make it as approachable as possible to be like, read it and then reach out and let us know what else we can do to help answer the questions. Because we understand it's a big undertaking to implement albums. Yeah. And so great. Like, we'll hold your hand the entire way. The stat came from my friends a couple years ago. I'd been educating on the same idea for a while.
Right.
And they came to me and just said like, hey, I've heard you talk about this. They photograph 35 weddings a year, and they're like, we sell like 3 albums.
Yeah.
And we make good money selling 35 weddings at a decent price, but we want to serve. Like, when you started to change the word from sales to serve, we're in. Like, we always give them the option. That's what so many photographers say. And I did that first season as well. It just doesn't work very well because it's like, I can cut my budget. I don't have to have an album. I'll go do it myself. All the statistics are telling us that's just not the case. There's very few people that end up going and do it themselves. And if they do, they're probably not happy with it, which is why the other ones don't get it done.
Yeah.
So it was just like, here it is. And it's just one of the pieces to us being the expert in albums, as well as just like, we want to see photographers succeed. So here's our book. Here's our software. Here's our product. Here's, the visionary of the company showing up and educating you regularly. We're working on this thing. That's one of the things I'm working on with Tony, actually, is like, what would it look like for us to just be your photographer VA? We'll come in and we'll do this for you. Like, a lot of people were joking when I was doing masterminds or in-person education or whatever it was via Zoom. And they were like, can you just do my consultations? We all joke and we're all laughing. And I was like, that's what I want to do. But how can I scale that in a way that we can show up basically in photographers' businesses? And so we're working on this new, it'll be its own brand basically. So it's not just super tied to KISS, but we're going to help people and we'll show up and we'll do it. We'll be your product specialist. We will be the one that sit in the room, not physically, but virtually, with your clients, because people even want to do this. And they're like, I just don't think I have the time. It's like, cool, we do. We'll create a system that will help you do it. And then, I just talked to a photographer yesterday and they've shot 70 weddings in the last 2 years and they've sold like 7 albums. And I'm like, cool. That is 63 opportunities. We're going to go back to them and serve them if they're willing to. We're going to take your current clients, include it in every package, and we're going to serve them well. You're going to make a lot of money doing it. Is not why we do it. It is like one of the reasons why we do it, but it is not the top priority. The top priority is so that 5 years down the road, that couple will sit down on a couch, flip through the book before they go out to dinner and celebrate it. And it'll get them back to those moments. It's just different than on a device. Devices are a beautiful thing. Technology is fantastic. But there's nothing like sitting on the couch and flipping through a book of you and your partner or your family or whatever it is. And just like being like, I loved this. Like, we were laughing here and we loved each other. I barely like you right now because of finances and how we're raising our kids or whatnot, if that's in your future. How can we get back to this? And so we're going to set that tradition in as we go and do this for photographers as well and help people become great entrepreneurs and focus on what matters most to them, which typically is like, just be you, be the best version of you and take pictures, like be creative and go do that really well. We can do the rest and we'll help you do it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's awesome. I'm always interested to talk to album professionals because it's I'm one of those people shooting the 30, 40, 50 weddings a year, making good money, super happy. And then it's like, hey, how many albums do you sell? And I'm like, 6, or like, and it feels like and I'm very much like or at least I view myself as like a data driven kind of person. Like I've been using, CRMs for a long time now to where it's like, I only want to make data driven decisions. And so, but I'm also down to A/B test things and like, okay, let's try our next set of packages with an album credit, right? And then let's do it with, maybe we don't do a credit. We just say 10 by 10 albums. So we don't have to explain what a credit is. Then you do a la carte, right? There's like these 3 options, maybe even more. And it's the one thing, even when I have like one-on-one mentees that come to me and I'm like, listen, I'll tell you all about the 3 strategies that I know. I'm bad at all of them, apparently. That's the one thing I tell them. Like, please don't come to me. I can help you with the design of them. I can help you, communicate expectations. But, that's one thing I talk to every album person. And I would say I'm a struggling album salesman. So it's awesome to see, that you guys are trying to implement, that full service kind of implementation. I think that's awesome because again, it's like eliminating your client's fear, and we're your client. So you're like, oh, we're scared of trying to sell. We're scared of trying to, ask for more money or whatever. Especially even in COVID times, right? Like everybody feels a little bit icky with that kind of stuff. But like, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to serve, And I think one thing that helped even solidify albums for me a year or 2 ago was like my last in-person memory with my grandpa. My wife and I had been together for 2-3 years, got awesome album made. It was great. Designed it myself, and like we went all out. It's like 40 or 50 spreads, just massive boat anchor. And we had sent our families the galleries, right? We sent them all the photos, right? And I don't think Grandpa got that link. I don't think the Grandma got that link. And we show up, we bring our album, and we spent like 3.5 hours looking through it, and it was so cool. And that was when, I think the emotional side of it and like the actual, like, no, we're going to do this. And like I didn't grow up with a lot of family traditions, but making it a tradition to, hey, on anniversary day, let's look through our album together. Let's hang out. Or on, Christmas Eve, let's watch Die Hard and read, the Isaiah story or something. Like those kind of traditions are things that I'm learning to have to make fresh. And so it's hard for me to sell them if I don't feel bought in. But it's over time, all that to say, I've like slowly become more bought in. Like I get it, but now it's like, okay, I still feel like I lack the skills to implement it. And I feel like that's where a lot of photographers are at, is like, okay, I like albums. I know what they are, in theory. But it's like, it's really hard. And I talked to mentees about this with finding their why. And, it's albums oftentimes it's very hard to like connect it. And if you can't sell what you don't believe in. And then if you don't believe in something, that's when it does feel salesy. So all that to say, like Shaun, help us out. Help everybody else out.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we're here. I mean, it is ultimately why we exist. If you ask probably anybody in my company, from, shipping to my COO, like they know that our number one goal is to help photographers succeed.
Yeah.
So I've been like preaching this for a while. And I say, like, if you could serve every client with an album, would you want to? And people are like, yes. Photographers are like, yes. Cool. Here is everything you need.
Yeah.
And that's the bridge that we need to gap, is because only 5% of people, and this is across anything from like Tony Robbins to church to whatever. It's like only 5% of people go home and change anything in their life from an in-person session, And so I'm like, man, I just don't want to be an educator then, if that's the case, because that's a really low percentage. So where can we bridge that gap? And I feel like this is the next thing, and we might have to lean in even more. Who knows, what we will need to do. Get to do really to serve this industry. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for where we're at and the resources that we have to invest in this area, because I think it has so much more to do with the why is that moment that, 5, 7, 8 years in, if there's a couple sitting on their couch talking about getting back to that moment, we're more into relationships and connection and why we actually exist. The magic of photography is so easy to explain. We get to stop time that people get to look back on and feel that feeling again. People don't buy what we do. They don't buy photography. They buy how we make them feel. Yeah. Well, that moment is magical because we allow them to feel this emotion, go back to that moment and relive it. And then we get to set the same concept you were just talking about. How can we set a tradition in their life? What if we just talk them through it? Most traditions are just shown to us over and over again. Yeah. So we do that, whether it's dinner on Sunday night with a family, church, whatever that tradition is, get up and milk the cows is what my grandpa knew was his thing. He had to do that before he went to school, which blows my mind. Like, who does that now? Yeah. Like, nobody, it seems like. But these traditions are such a beautiful thing. So it's more about that than it is about like, we're just in the way of those traditions. What if that's the case? What if we are not serving our clients well and we're keeping them from these traditions? What if the photos that we take, and there's thousands and thousands of them, right, that only get viewed on a device maybe, or Facebook has to remind them, or they're like, go and look up on Facebook from 5 years ago what my wedding was, and they get to look at one photo. Yeah. It's just a disservice in my book, because you can sit down and flip through actual physical things and not have a device around and like, here, I'm going to grab a glass of bourbon, and what can I pour for you? And I'll pour, her something, and we'll sit down and just flip through the book and be like, oh man, this was a long time ago for us now, but like, we were crazy. Who did we think we were? But I saw the world in you, and you believed in me before we even knew what we were capable of. And we screwed that up too. But how do we get back to this and seeing each other this way, again, today and today's, and it's a beautiful gift we can give them as a tradition.
That's awesome. So give me, if you feel comfortable, let's talk practical steps. I think, and we can use either a photographer like me or a new photographer. Let's somebody who's fresh, like how can somebody who is developing some of their packages, what's their best case for developing, a successful album program? What's that look like? Should we expect every photographer sells 90% of their albums, or what is a proper expectation to set for the photo industry with albums?
Yeah, I think doable would be 90%. I think meaning like it's a good goal to set, and I think it's simple to hit, not easy to hit. And so we get to tell. I mean, it's our business, right? Like, are we in charge or are they in charge? Now, I believe that they come in and they say, like, I believe that I am worth this much, so I will spend this money on me to hire you as a photographer. That is a big shift for me, but then the photographer builds trust and gets to serve them and however they want to. When we walk into a car dealership or a Nordstrom or a Target, we still they get to choose what's sitting on their shelves or what the car looks like or how it drives and things like that. Why do we leave it short of just how can we serve you? All we're doing is serving them. And that's a fantastic gift that we get to do. How else can we serve them? And so for a new photographer just coming in, when we started KISS, it's the same idea. There's people that use us that have used us for as soon as they started their business, and they don't even know what it means to not serve with an album. They're like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Yeah. The majority of the industry is like, I'm afraid to sell because it was like, I didn't sell. Now I'm trying to sell. Yeah. It's like, cool. Well, let's replace that. I didn't serve my clients with albums. Now I want to serve my clients with albums. Yeah. So in that same boat, I'm hoping that some photographers never have to understand what it means to be. It's hard to sell an album. My clients can't afford it. That's just what they do. It's part of the expectation or the experience that they create. Yeah. So a new photographer coming in, the simple steps would be like, reach out if you need help for one, but also just include it in every package. So what do you do for a living? I'm a photographer. It's like, cool. What does that even mean? I take pictures and I give them those pictures. What else do you do? It's like when you're trying to find somebody's why, you just keep saying like, why? It's like, I own a hotel. Why? Because I want people to come and be comfortable. Okay. Why? Because like when we leave our house as a family, there's so many hotels that I have 3 kids. Yeah. And we have to get 2 hotel rooms now. Yeah. And that's not the best. And so I have this hotel. I don't really, but this is just an example. Totally. I have this hotel that makes it to where the family can stay together. It's more like an Airbnb meets hotel. And so it's like leaving your house. It's like when you leave your house to go on vacation, it's like being in your home and maybe even a little better because we clean for you every night and we can bring lunch right to you. And we're also on the beach. And so what else do you do? Like, why do you do photography? Is it just to take pictures? Well, that is a very occupied hill in marketing terms. So what else do you do? What other hill do you want to go to that's not like so occupied? As photographers are like, this is such a saturated industry. Yeah, it is. There's hills that are unoccupied. And there's one hill that nobody can occupy, and it's just you showing up and being you. Yeah. So let's work on you being the best version of you being the best photographer on the planet. And what if you're a photographer that creates an experience that gets to document that experience and you deliver that in an album? Like, could that be what you do for a living? Yeah. And we call it photography. That's what it was for the longest time. If you go to my grandpa's house, and who's no longer with us, but you could like him and all his friends, you could always find a wedding album. My parents, my dad's like in his early 70s, my mom's late 60s. You could go to their house, you find a wedding album, and all their friends that are that age. There is a certain point wherever it is. Yeah, probably somebody in their like 50s at this point. It just became not as much of a thing. Why? Because digital hit, and it was like, well, I don't have to print. I could just take all these photos and it doesn't quote unquote cost me anything. Yeah. That doesn't have to be the case. We get to tell them this is what we do. I'm a photographer. I create an experience. I get to document this beautiful experience. And that's the magic. And I'm going to deliver it in a book because I want you to sit down and read your own story regularly. Yeah. That is a legacy. The photos are a legacy in and of themselves. But what is one of the emails we get all the time from our clients? Hey, can you send me that link again? You already referenced it. Like grandpa didn't get the link. Yeah. Well, if he had a book, he wouldn't need the link. He could just go grab the book and flip through it. And that's what grandpa wants to do. Yeah. It's also what my 11-year-old wants to do. He wants to go grab a book. Of course, he wants a device. Yeah. I don't want him to have a device half the time, but he wants a device. But he's still willing to go get a book. And we flip through it of photos from 5 years ago. He says, tell me a story about me at this age. And it's one of the most beautiful things. Wow. I sit back and I just let my wife tell a story because she's so good at it. My grandpa's the same way. Before he passed away, he had Alzheimer's. We called him Rain Man. My aunt called him Rain Man. She was his caregiver because he had photos around him all the time. Yeah. He can pull up a photo, show it to me and be like, tell me everything about it. And everything was accurate, but he couldn't remember my daughter's name.
Wow.
But he can tell me everything about it. My aunt would say like, that's Rain Man. And that's all accurate. He'd be like, Shaun, remember this? And it was like literally 20 years before I was even born. He's like, remember this? This is like the old dairy farm. And, Joe ran it. And, I got into it with somebody over our horse one time on this thing. And he just tells me this entire story. And I just sit back and listen because I'm like, he understands everything in that moment. He's finally in his mind in that place. And that's what's the gift of photography. So why take that from them by just giving them a link to all their images? Like, give them a link to all their images. What if they don't do anything with it? What if they paid you $4,000 to shoot their wedding?
Right.
And all they have is a link to their images and they don't know what to do with it? A, they wouldn't pay for it from the get-go. And B, you would feel like you're kind of selling snake oil in some ways because it's like, they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Yet they don't have a budget. They can't afford it. There's all these other things. They're just limiting beliefs. I just want to lead the industry to show up differently in a way that serves them to this finish line that looks different than what it currently does.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So, I mean, I want to dive deeper on that though. So if somebody does believe that, if somebody's into it, what do they do? Or what, statistically, data wise, like what have you found to be most effective or, what does that process look like?
Yep. So I can tell you all the negative ones and like the amount of weddings and all those things. You can find that because I preach about that all the time.
Sure.
What can you practically do today?
Yeah.
Statistically, you get to choose what you do as for a living. Like what is it that people don't buy what you do? They buy how you make them feel. Cool. How do you want to make them feel?
Yeah.
And so if you want them sitting on a couch 7 years into their marriage or 3 years after they've done these family photos and one of the kids asks what it was like to be them at that age, what it would tell me a story about that. If that's what you want, practically, there's a couple things that are very difficult, but I'll start with an easy one. Just include it. So if it's a wedding, it's simple to include it. I know it's not easy because there's all the fears and all those things. Include it. I can walk you through pricing and all that stuff. Just reach out to me and I will help you with that. Include it in every package because that's what you do for a living. And then you just walk them through that. You talk about it early and often. So you want them to trust you. So something you can do if you're just getting started or you've done this for a long time and you don't serve with albums and you want to,
sure,
order samples and post about them and why you want to do this and why this is what you do for a living now. Yeah. I love albums because I spent time meeting with this album company and the quality's there. Like, don't just stay stuck on the quality because everyone offers quality, but be like, tell the story and then make your clients the hero. So just post about it, build a little page on your website that is committed to albums, and then have, the stack, have your sample, even if it's just one sample. People buy what you show them and they buy what you believe in, and then you build trust. And that's more of it's just a healthier transaction. I can just run a Facebook ad and sell stuff, right? Or I can invest in relationships, and that transaction comes with trust. It comes with we get to live in that trust and continue to cultivate that trust. And then that also comes with referrals. Like, hey, I trust this photographer that delivered this thing. I want him to deliver the same thing for you. Right. And so we just talk about it early and often. Social media, your website, in the consultation, you're just very clear about what they get. And then, engagements, it's just another opportunity. When you show up to take pictures, just show up and serve them well, create moments and document them. Right. But before and after, just set the expectation before and then over deliver after. This is all very simple. Again, not easy, simple marketing terms, under promise, over deliver. Yeah. Set the expectation and deliver. Invest in the relationship, not in just the transaction. You'll get transactions from it, but talk about it early and often. Implement it. It's an entire series of things that we get to do to implement this. We have it all worked out. We have it to where you can just bolt it on. And like I said, we're going to build something to where we do it for you, or with you, I should say. Sure. But you can go do it yourself too. If you want all the profit, then I can show you exactly how to do it. Right. And if you use KISS, great. If not, fine too. Please just serve your clients with albums because it has so much more to do with them and the moments that they will remember and the feeling that you've helped them cultivate than the best picture on the planet that you took.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. What is for the person asking? We're going to get these emails, and you get these emails all the time. Again, I want to just try and have some kind of practical way. So even on the consultation, is that how should somebody talk about albums in the ideal way? What is Shaun's recipe? You're on the phone call chatting with a couple. What does Shaun say about albums?
Yeah, I think my favorite time when I was a photographer is when I had one package. So let's just talk about the one package that they always book or the one that I only offer. It's just like, it's straight up, this is what you get. So it is
Nice.
8, full day coverage, let's say. It is 2 photographers, an engagement session, and a book.
Yeah.
What does that book look like? Is it a credit? Is it a book?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Credit sometimes avoids, like there's taxes and stuff. Talk to your CPA. That is not my profession.
Yeah.
But ideally what you say is like, when you first sit down in a consultation, do not put a book in their lap. I did it as a habit for a long time because it's like, oh, this will be easier. Let's just talk about my pictures. Let's talk about me as a photographer. Let's talk about how great I am. And we all, that's just, they're there to potentially purchase. That is what we, it's just not the case. I just sit down now. I have the samples kind of like behind me, and I would just invest in the relationship. Where did you meet? What does a typical date night look like? Because I want to tell your story. Yeah. So tell me your story, because I want to like document your story and then just tell it really well. Yeah. Tell me what that looks like. How did you meet? What are you most excited about? How is planning gone? All this type of stuff. And then there's a moment where it's like, here's one of the books. This is actually what's in this one package. It's like a 10 by 10, 10 spread album, 20 pages. Yeah. So put it in their lap, let them look through it. I would only do it like 15, 20 spreads. I mean, most people don't want to look at anybody else's wedding that's like 40 spreads. It's just a lot. There's like the couple, and then like maybe one of the parents wants to look at it. Maybe not even everybody does, especially if it's a big, massive 40 spread. So don't do this big, massive book. Just order something that like gets the job done. It's like, they can shoot an entire wedding front to back, and I can trust that. Yeah. And then say like, that's actually what's, that's a little bit bigger than what's in your package. And this is one of the words or the sentences that I would say, because most of my clients, like what's in your package is a highlight reel. Most of my clients end up upgrading to the full length story. Yeah. And the full length story, that's kind of in between highlight reel and full length story. What you have is like, 20 spreads, 40
is the movie trailer.
It's the trailer. It's not quite there. I want to tell your whole story, and then we can get it to fit your needs, your budget, whatever you need. But what I'm going to show you after the wedding is the full length story. That's the first thing that you're going to see. So that's another sentence to say. Yeah. And no matter what, this is the package that I do. And from the time you sign it the way it is, no matter what. Yeah. Once you sign that, everything after the fact is discounted. So every upgrade to albums, every add-on album, anything that has to do with the album is that you upgrade is discounted. Not everybody does that, but people that are most successful, when I was most successful, we all like a deal. Doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. Billionaires expect things to be done for free. Celebrities expect things done for free. It's not because they can't afford it. It's because they want to feel special. Yep. So why would I give them a discount? It's because I want them to know that you invested in me. So I'm going to give you a discount, and we're also going to put a timer on it. So you'll have, up to 30 days after the first time you see your design, you still get that discount. I do 30% because I'm a simple minded person. Yeah. It's 30% off for 30 days after. You get 3 rounds of changes. So I just stay in that world game. And so I talk about it as much as they want to in the consultation, but I make sure to get a few sentences out. Most of my clients spend extra money. What's in your package is a highlight reel, and what I'm going to show you is a full length story. Yeah. You'll get a discount on any upgraded book. What's in your package actually is a 10 by 10. Now, this is an 8 by 8 book. So at the top of the stack, there's an 8 by 8 or 2. Yeah. And this one's actually engagements. And I put the engagement book in their lap. A lot of people purchase an engagement book as a sign-in book. Yeah. Instead of like the traditional sign-in book. Yeah. So I can design one of those for you, no strings attached. I'll just show it to you. It's way easier to see it when your photos are in it than anybody else's. Yeah. So once I photograph your engagement session, I'll send you the link to your images as well as a design. So I'm just talking them through things that I'm just planting seeds, and then I'll cultivate it as we go. But that would kind of cover it in the engagement book. Awesome. And I would also say like, that's also a great book as a parent book. Parents like copies a lot of times. Yeah. My album company gives me a discount on any additional book. And so I want to pass that on to them as well. So this would normally be this much money, but they get the same discount if we order it at the same time with the same design. Yeah. So I'm talking them into all these things. They're not going to remember all those things. If I even asked you right now, you probably couldn't remember all of them, right? But I'm going to remind them along the way. I've set the seeds. And now before the engagement session, I'm going to talk to them about that engagement book again. I'll say like, here's what outfits to avoid, or like, patterns to avoid. I'm going to invest in the relationship first again, just like I did in the consultation. And I'll say like, here's some details. after, within a couple weeks, however long it takes you to edit the images and like design this book. The book shouldn't take very long with an engagement book to design.
Yeah.
This is what you can expect. And then afterwards, I just over deliver. I say, it's going to take me 3 weeks to edit all these images and get them to you.
Right.
Like 1 week after, I have them edited in a design.
Yeah.
I say, like, here's a design of yours. We can create space where people can sign in. Here's a sample of it. And it's just a link to somebody else that has like a few spreads that I've photographed and stuff like that. So it's just, again, it's just marketing over and over again. It's just these moments. I call them like moments. They're opportunities that I get to like invest in a relationship and then serve them with this product that I want them to have. Because why do we shoot engagements?
Yeah,
I do. And I even say this in the consultation. One of the reasons that the engagement, I won't take it out is because I want to get to know you when I have a camera in my hand. I'm not like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but if I'm coaching you and I want to know what it looks like to pose you and what you're comfortable with, what you're not, it's going to help us on the wedding day. So a lot of this is for me. I just want to do that no matter what. Some benefits that come from it, you can use it as a save the date. It's the first time you've probably been photographed by a professional.
Yeah.
In the time you've been together. We all have iPhones and we have tons of photos of ourselves, but nothing like this. So I want to tell your story, and this is kind of how I'm going to deliver it. So I just do that over and over again until that final moment. And then I even deliver a little kiss. So it's a 4x4.
Yeah.
I order that at the same time I order the wedding album. And that's the last thing that I do. Is I say, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your day. This is an album that you can keep on you always. And it is a gift. And I just give it to them. I actually give it to their parents, and I find a vendor that I want to work with again. So sometimes I'll order 4 little kisses and I just deliver that. And that got me so many referrals because they, somebody's at the hair salon or like wherever they're at on vacation or something. I told them to keep it on them always. I said it in the note. So they just throw it in their bag or in their purse or whatever. Yeah. And someone's like, I'm on my anniversary trip, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, tell me about your wedding or whatever. I actually have a book right here. Or they're like getting their hair done. Didn't you just get married? Like the stylist did their hair the day of. Like, how was the rest of the wedding? And here you go. Here's a book. And I got so many referrals from that thing. So it's just, there's so many things to this that are great. But again, fear will keep us from it. If we don't show up and are willing to fail, then fear is going to keep us from way more than failure ever will.
Yeah, no, totally. That makes perfect sense. I feel like that's, even hearing that approach is a lot more, sounds easier to dive into than maybe other approaches I've heard of, and obviously, talk about it on the consultation, but you're not pushy by any means. And if it's in your, all your packages, like you don't have to really push it. And if you are, you believe in it enough not to take it out if they ask,
Yeah. That's a tough question. It is a tough one. Like, hey, it's worth $1,000 or $600. Can you just take it out and charge me less? And it's like, no, and this is why. And then you just tell them the story.
Yeah.
And then you share that story. Like, what I do for a living is this, and I want this tradition in your life. And then they may, choose to not book you. They're probably not an ideal client if you believe in it as much as you say then as well. And I know what it's like to have to pay bills. There's times where I had to book this wedding or I wasn't going to pay rent. I've been in those shoes, so I understand it. And sometimes I'm like, then fine, just book it, whatever it takes. But if you want to like own a business, not just own a job, start to define what you want, show up and do that. And then those clients that understand and sign up for what you are serving them with, including the album and everything, they will multiply. They will refer you because of that album. Yeah. You talk about it regularly on your social media, on your website, and then you serve them well, and they're talking about it. They're not even talking about their favorite picture in the album. They're talking about their wedding day, and you happen to document it. That is a better referral than the middle spread that's gorgeous. It just is, because people don't buy what you do. They want to feel the same feeling that their friend that's referring them feels in that moment. Yeah. So that is a differentiator, and that will get you so many referrals. There's going to be a line out your door. But I've been in those shoes, so I totally understand it. This is not like an overnight thing. Sure. It's simple to implement it. It is not easy. Yeah. It becomes more approachable when we've done all these things. Right. But it takes a little bit of time to cultivate this. So you get to do it, or I can help you do it, or I'll end up just doing it for you at some point.
Right, exactly. Or somebody, you basically will lose out on money and then, and also, I think a greater connection, a deeper connection with the people that you serve, I've been through kind of both seasons. There was times when I viewed myself as just a photographer and hadn't done work on my why, hadn't gone through any, mentorship seemed expensive, to really talk to people about that kind of thing. And I was just a photographer, but then I was getting clients that just needed a photographer. And, I was like, when a dog greets you when you walk through the door, I was like happy, ready to serve, ready to love, like, hey, I'll be here forever. and the problem is like, well, one, their expectations is that your relationship is a certain level of depth, and your expectation is like, guys, I'm going to photograph the most intimate day of your life. This is a big deal. All this, all these things that we say and we know, and you're ready. You're barking. You're chasing the fire hydrant or the fire engine, if you will, and it's awesome. And then and it was even harder to sell then, right? It was definitely a job, but at least for me, I was like, this is still cool, and I was excited just to be doing that. And then it was like, I had those moments for myself where certain mentorship and certain workshops were like, hey, what do you want to do with your entire life? And I was like, oh, and instantly had a few really deep mentor sessions with some certain people, and over the last few years, it was like I got to find out why I was already doing this thing. I got to find out why I exist in the world, and now my goal with most of my clients is like, I want to be invited to Thanksgiving. Like I want to be the family documentarian, if you will, and get to invest in these people's lives. And it's so funny, like that is, it's so much more fulfilling, again, like I know lots.
It's your purpose. You're talking about your purpose.
Yeah.
And so there's the depth there, and that's when it gets so good.
Yeah. No, it's weird. I know lots of photographers here in DC, some who are not wedding photographers, and again, you got to get the bag, you got to work for cool clients. I know all that stuff, and I think it's really fun, and I think it's awesome. But you oftentimes see there's not a connection to be like, why are you doing this? What do you want to do? And I think I have this theory that when you're not doing what your purpose is, or what you're fulfilled to do, or serving who you're not wanting to serve or not want to do, that's when you're closest to burnout, and it's like, I could work just as hard. I can still shoot 40 weddings, but if I really do love and invest and connect and have properly done everything with those 40, I'll be more fulfilled and less burnt out than I was shooting 40 for people who don't care about me, or vice versa,
Yep. That is definitely where burnout comes from. It's just like when we stop living with this purpose, or allow them to tell us what they want, and we just continue to form into that.
Yeah.
That's where burnout comes from. It's because we can go why do people live for the weekend, and why do they, just complain about work all the time? It's because they haven't found their purpose in that work.
Yeah.
Our purpose is just photographers. It is so easy, I think, to find the magic, like I said, in photography. And then it's cool. Why else? It's just that one layer deeper, and then you find everything. And then you can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. But you're I want to be invited to Thanksgiving. Why?
Yeah.
Because I want to be the one that they think of hey, I want a picture taken. I want Adam to do that for me.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. That is my jam. And then you get to go and build a company that they think that.
Yeah.
Even since I've lived here in Indiana, which has only been 9 years, I had a past client call me and hey, Dad's not doing so well. I got the chills right now. Dad's not doing so well. He's got cancer because he's passed since this moment.
Yeah.
Can you come on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah.
And take pictures of us? And I'm absolutely. I got it approved, by the crew, by my family, because I want my family as well.
Yeah.
But I was hey, I'm just going to hop over to their place and I'm just going to shoot for a little bit. One of the kids want to go with me, and one of them came with me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that later that year, or the following year, he passed away.
Yeah.
And it was now I know what I do for a living. I know what I do for a living. It happens to be with a camera, but it's not. I invest in relationships so that they think of me to document their most intimate moments, from hey, Dad's passing away, to weddings, to families, to hey, we're pregnant, will you photograph this beautiful thing if that's in their future, and so it's there's so many ways that we can really invest into the relationship piece. And then our turn rate, we're guessing, is around 3 years in the US, where it's a photographer goes in business and should go out of business because they haven't figured it out. Totally fine, no judgment there. It's just, that's a really, really steep turn rate. And so it's how can we make that longer? That's one of my things with KISS is how can we help make a sustainable thing? I believe, and we have this whole thing planned out where it's I'm having a hard time showing up and serving the, the 5% that want to change anything, like I referenced earlier.
Yeah.
I'm focused on that, but I have a future plan of like, I can show you how to photograph X amount of weddings a year, photograph X amount of families, and then invest this way, actually like invest in yourself. Cause there's no 401k for solopreneurs that I know of. There is, but we're not taking them, the system up on it. But I can show you like how you can do this for a living for not a very long time and actually retire from it. And so we're building out what's next as well. But we get to once you understand your why, it's more likely you're willing to fight for it. And so then those questions of like, my clients can't afford it, I'm not a good salesperson, you start to figure out how you show up in it, or like, we'll just work with them and they can do it for us. And I'm going to implement that. Yeah. Sometimes creatives are the best connectors. Like we find a lab that we love, we find an album company that we love, and we find, whatever it is that's needed to serve our clients with it. And a lot of times it's because we like the person we met at a booth or what they're saying online or whatnot. We're willing to do that. But at some point, in order to stay in business, the bottom line does have to turn, from red to black. It just has to, or people around us start to like kind of prove the whole starving artist. Like, see, I told you that wasn't a real job. And I told you that like being a creative isn't a real thing. It's not true. Yeah. It's just not true. We just make it true because we, it's not, the pain isn't big enough for us to show up early enough. And then we're in debt and it's causing issues in the relationships that we have and all those types of things. It just doesn't have to be that way. Yeah. Like lean into those resources around you, surround yourself with really good people. I'm redefining the 5 people around me. I actually only have 3 right now, but I'm redefining it because of what I want to become. Yeah. What I want next is different than what I currently have. And so I'm defining like, who's going to be in this with me? Who's going to like really push on me and expect that from me? Do that in your life as an entrepreneur. And you're going to have people saying like, hey, serve people with more, and like per client needs to be a little bit higher. You're going to get burnt out. Yeah. Taking pictures and delivering them is just going to get exhausting. People that preach that's not, is just, it's not true. Like there's so much more that can be had by our business. We get to design it and we get to show up and then we get to serve. As long as we are serving other people, as one of my friends' dad said this, as long as we are serving people, we will have more than enough work to go around. Yeah. More than enough. That's what we do. We show up and we serve. Yeah. We're not just a service-based company though. We get product. There is more to it than just taking pictures. Yeah. We get to lean into that or not, we don't have to, but the starving artist is a saying for a reason. And we have the keys. Like, here's your franchise. Yeah. You get to be you get to take pictures. We can do like a lot, or if not the rest of it. Right. And we can help you with that. Let us help you. And if you want to create more margin at that point, you've been doing that for 3 years, take it over yourself. I've done that many a times. There's seasons where I've looked in, like I outsourced my editing and then I was like, hey, I want to make that, it's like 10% of my profit or whatnot. I'm just going to do it myself again because I need to pay the bills. Yeah. You get to like choose what you're going to do and what you're not. At the end of my career, I showed up to weddings and to these, we were hired by I photographed like Peyton Manning, some stuff for like some really cool stuff here in Indy. At the end of my career as a photographer, I literally did not take a picture at like the last 10 events. I showed up and I knew what I did was invest in the relationship and made them comfortable, and somebody else could just take the picture, because that's not what I sold. I didn't sell shooting, taking the shutter. Yeah. I even outsourced that because I got to just get dressed up. I got to like serve them, love on them. Yeah, hang out. And they were like, we raised our prices so much that they finally had to like say no more, because I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. But they went away from us one year. The Peyton Manning Children's Hospital went away from us one year because we had charged so much. Yep. And that year, Peyton was like, he didn't say Shaun, he doesn't like know me by name, but he was like, I want them back. Yeah. Because that's what I did. I just invested in, and he's amazing. He's a quarterback all the time, but he wants things done in a specific way. Yeah. And I was like, hey, we're done with it. I got to really focus on KISS. I need to just like not do this anymore. Sure. And we went back and I did it one more time, but it's just, there's so much more to it than just taking pictures. It's not, we don't just take pictures. It's the tool that we get to kind of like deliver our why and the other parts to it. The camera is a great tool. Technology is a great tool. Yeah. It's just part of it though. There's so much more to it. Yeah. No, I love that, man. It's that's awesome. Yeah. Anytime, I feel like you're one of those people anyway where I'm like, everybody wants to go sell albums now, but not just for the sales purpose. It's like, the one thing I've learned in the last few years is, and kind of the theme of this episode we're finding out, is like, you have to believe, and if or not possibly work towards
like solidifying your own worth. And when you know that you are like, it's kind of a different perspective. Like if I have growing up, you saw somebody with a really nice car, you're like, oh, they're rich and awful and whatever. But now there's a certain level of like, no, if I'm doing this, or like, you know, for my one nice thing in my life is I have a really nice motorcycle, and it's like, I believe I am worth that much, maybe even more. You know, I believe that, and it's not a material thing per se, but it's like showing up, even charging what you're worth, all that kind of stuff. And I think there are good times for that kind of stuff where it's like and obviously we have days when we meet with a client and you're like, I feel like a penny. And then there are days when you meet with a client and you're like, I feel like $1 million, and you come off like $1 million, you know, and clients I found, like, you know, they are attracted to somebody who knows their worth and can help them connect deeper with who they are. And those photos will remind them, right? Or like I just shot a boudoir session, and I don't do a ton of them, but I shot a boudoir session with the other day. And I told them, I said, one, I don't see you the way that you've seen yourself for the last, 25 years or 28 years. You look in the mirror every single day and you see what you don't like and you try to fix it.
Yep.
I've never seen that. I just see you and I think you're awesome. I think you're powerful. I think you're wonderful. I think you're whoever you want to be. And all the other imperfections, no one else is thinking that. I used to think that my friends were like ashamed of me because I was overweight. And I realized my friends were like, Adam, we never think about how much you weigh. Like, unless
we just love you for who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, unless we're on a roller coaster at Six Flags, that's about it. That's the and you're not allowed to ride. It's just like, that's why. And it's like, listen, like, love people, and it's so powerful. And I think for me, my own brand is like, I want everybody to feel that way, and my mentees, other clients, photographers, whatever, like, even getting to go to that conference, it was like, that was my first one. And I was like, are all of them like this? Like, it went pretty well. Like I think afterwards there's a little bit of naysayers on Facebook, but I made so many friends and had so many good experiences and got to watch other businesses that were, newer than me, the same as me and bigger than me, all grow and do things. And like, that's just exciting. Like, how could we not be pumped about that? And so, I chased that feeling down. And so thank you so much, man. That was a
total gift. I mean, absolute gift that you give your clients and those around you by just encouraging those things, there was a TV show, This Is Us.
Yeah.
And, the adopted one, he just struggled with like who he was all the time. My mom's adopted, so I connected with it really well. Cause I've just seen her like go through things, and she's very positive, a little different than him. But his thing was like big house, fancy car. That was one of the sayings. And now my daughter and I actually say it like big house, fancy car.
Yeah.
And I am not like, I understand like the wealthy, could do more and all this stuff. Fine.
Sure.
Like whatever. I'm like, let's go get the big house and the fancy car. But here's the deal. For me, one of the biggest things that we think of as a human is the last time someone's going to say our name. And if they say Shaun had a big house and a fancy car, I'm going to be disappointed.
Right.
Now, I would be okay if they're like, Shaun had a fantastic house and the conversations that we had in that house changed my life.
Totally.
Because he saw me, he heard me, and he knew that what I wanted to say was going to impact them. And so that's more what I'm into it. Let's go get the big house and the fancy car. I'm totally in. Let's go make all the money. But who are you going to be as you're doing that? That matters more to me. And that's the other two. I believe that success is measured in three ways. It's our finances, something that's measurable, our purpose, like why were we made? Why do we exist? And then who are we as we do that? So who are we being as we do that? That is full success. Because I was on my way to making a lot of money. Big house, fancy car was in my future.
Yeah.
But I was probably going to come home to an empty house because I was not living in my purpose. I didn't understand why I existed. And I also was not being who I really wanted to be and who I was made to be. And so now I'm like, let's go get the big house and fancy car, as long as the conversations are richer than me driving that fun car. Totally. Like I want to experience the car. I really like it, but it's not who I am. When I look back at the car, I'm proud of the things that I've done. That car doesn't make me who I am. What makes me who I am is the type of person that I choose to be, whether someone's parking my car or I'm parking it myself. I get to be who I choose to be. In this moment right now, I can say I want to be compassionate, and then I can try and do what I want to be compassionate. But a lot of times I find myself outside of that, and I just get to kind of like get back to my vision. I mean, we're either moving towards our vision or away from it. There's no middle. And so my vision is like to discover through curiosity right now. I'm going to continue to uncover things with people, stay curious with them, and just meet them where they're at. You know, like I said, I have struggled with my weight, and up until now, I still struggle with like sugar and carbs. And if you find me in the pantry, don't yell at me from outside the pantry and tell me I shouldn't be in there. It's not going to go well for you or me. Like I'm a good fighter as well. So don't mess with my sugar. Come in the pantry and just be like, hey, those chocolate chips look fantastic. How are you? Like, are you okay? You know, it's like, not really. I had a rough day and I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. That's why I'm in here. I'm eating because I don't feel like I'm a good enough parent, or I'm not running the company how I want to. Like, just have a conversation with me. Don't yell at me from the top of the hole that I'm in. Hey, you know, consider it pure joy to be in these trials. It's like, stop doing that. Like, just get in the hole with me and help me get out of it. Cause I'm just in it, you know, and be in it with each other. That's kind of where we're at. And so as creatives, we're in our own mind. As humans, we're in our own mind, but creatives, it's the next level a lot of times. Let us in, you know, and I'd love to like sit there with you in it and figure out ways to like when you're ready and when you've mourned the losses that you're in this hole for, let's get out and go. If you want a big house and a fancy car, let's go do it and figure out who you want to be along the way and lean into that. And the thing is, I will never arrive. I'm going to die with my boots on because I will never arrive. I can always become the next version of me. And I hope to continue to do that. Yeah. The last few years have been really good. As soon as I feel like I've arrived, it's over. Yeah, totally. I'm done. And because I can always become a little bit better in certain areas of my life.
I love it, man. Well, I feel like we could probably this probably should move to Clubhouse because we'll just talk for like 5 hours.
Serious, yeah.
I love it, man. Well, where can people go to find out more about KISS and find out more about the stack? And then is there even like an inkling of it might still be in the idea phase for kind of the concierge, the album or photography concierge. Where can people go to find out? I called it concierge for like 4 years, but where people can find me, KISS Books is at KISS Books on Instagram or kiss.us on the web. Awesome. You can find me at Shaun Austin. Follow along with me at Shaun Austin, ShaunAustin. Awesome. That's where that's me. You know, that's my real life. It's me running a business, me traveling, me having a family, me on this fitness journey of like trying to figure out, you know, how to like rid some of these demons in my life that want me to like be in the pantry all the time, you know, but also like the things that I'm working on with like the done for you type of thing. As we like evolve that, we're a good year in beta, but we're going to take a real small group of people, walk them through it, learn a ton with them, and then just continue to add people as we do it before we open the floodgates to that thing. But follow me because I talk a lot about those things. We're at KISS once it fully evolved. At KISS Books is a beautiful thing. You can find out about KISS. But if you want to know about kind of like the other few things that I have going on, becoming is this thing I constantly talk about. Are you becoming the version of you that you want to? And this is what I'm working on. Let's do this together. That's all on my personal brand at Shaun Austin. I love it. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. We'd love to do this again sometime.
Guys, thank you so much for checking out The Bearded Hog. It really means a lot. If you can, leave a like on the video. If you want to see more videos, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications on when new videos come out immediately. Have a wonderful day, guys, and keep being awesome.